A customs officer at Port Sudan's airport flips through a Swiss passport. The business visa looks legitimate. Tourism development, it says. The officer stamps it without a second glance. 3 months later, that same passport holder is coordinating the nighttime extraction of 200 refugees from a beach that officially doesn't exist on any intelligence map. The diving instructors aren't certified. The resort manager has never run a hotel, and the guests checking into beachfront bungalows aren't tourists at all, but families who've walked 600 miles through desert hell to reach this one impossible exit. This is the story of how Israel built an entire fake business inside enemy territory and made it work for 4 years. 1977. The problem starts with mathematics that refuse to cooperate. 4,000 Ethiopian Jews trapped in Sudanese refugee camps. Sudan officially at war with Israel. No diplomatic channels, no legal immigration pathways, current extraction rate through individual smuggling operations, maybe 20 people per month if everything goes perfectly. At that pace, evacuation takes 17 years. 17 years where disease, malnutrition, and Sudanese security forces reduce those numbers daily. The equation doesn't balance. These weren't recent refugees. Beta Israel, they called themselves. Communities claiming lineage back to Solomon and Sheba, practicing Judaism in isolation for 2 millennia while the rest of the Jewish world evolved without them. They observed Sabbath. They studied Torah written in Ge'ez, an ancient Ethiopian language. They maintained ritual purity laws that rabbis in Jerusalem barely recognized. Yet when Ethiopia's military junta seized power and aligned with Moscow, ancient heritage meant nothing. The Derg viewed all religious communities as threats to socialist ideology. Villages emptied, synagogues closed. Young men disappeared into conscription that resembled death sentences. Israel had facilitated quiet immigration during the early 70s when Ethiopia still maintained relations. Small groups, chartered flights, official paperwork. That channel vanished when the Derg took power and severed diplomatic ties. Now, thousands sat in limbo, having fled one nightmare only to arrive at another. The camps near Khartoum offered survival, not sanctuary. Rakuba and Tawawa packed tens of thousands of refugees from multiple conflicts into spaces designed for hundreds. Cholera moved through crowded tents faster than aid organizations could distribute clean water. Dysentery killed children whose parents had carried them across mountains. The refugees couldn't work legally, couldn't travel freely, couldn't admit their destination was Israel without triggering immediate deportation back to Ethiopia. Meanwhile, the journey itself had become its own filter. 600 miles from Gondar to the Sudanese border, mountain passes above 10,000 feet where temperatures drop below freezing and altitude. Sickness claimed the weakest. Descent into lowlands brought opposite extremes. 100-degree days across plains where water sources lay 50 miles apart. Bandits operating smuggling routes attacked refugee groups, stealing supplies and sometimes people. Those who survived the crossing arrived at camps already half dead. Jerusalem watched this slow-motion catastrophe with growing frustration. Early extraction attempts through Egyptian intermediaries had collapsed. Individual smuggling operations attracted too much attention for too little result. The mathematics remained brutal. At current rates, most refugees would die before evacuation. Someone needed to think differently. Spring 1981. A young Mossad officer named Ephraim Halevi walks into a planning meeting with an idea that sounds like a joke. What if we just opened a business there? Not a front company, a real business, an actual functioning resort that generates revenue and employs local staff and pays taxes. The room goes quiet. Sudan is an enemy state. Israeli citizens face automatic arrest. The country hosts Soviet military advisors and Palestinian training camps. Operating any covert facility there violates about 15 different intelligence protocols. Yet, Halevi persists. The audacity is the protection, he argues. No one expects Israel to run a tourist resort inside hostile territory. The very absurdity provides cover. The Mossad director, Yitzhak Hofi, has approved operations in enemy territory before. Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, but nothing quite like this. Discovery means international incident, endangered refugees, arrested operatives. Success requires maintaining perfect operational security, not for days or weeks, but years. Intelligence operations that run that long almost always collapse. Someone talks, someone gets sloppy, patterns emerge. The planning group that forms includes veterans who've seen ambitious schemes fail. They meet in a secure facility outside Tel Aviv, away from headquarters. Absolute compartmentalization. The discussions get heated. Some argue the risks are insane. A single mistake dooms everyone. Others counter that doing nothing guarantees disaster, just slower. Weeks of debate follow as they work through scenarios. They study tourist patterns along the Red Sea. European divers seeking affordable alternatives to overcrowded Mediterranean destinations. They examine Sudanese bureaucracy, identifying which officials handle foreign business permits and how thoroughly applications get vetted. They assess local security capabilities. Every angle receives scrutiny because lives depend on thoroughness. The plan that emerges is elegantly simple in concept, nightmarishly complex in execution. Acquire property on Sudan's Red Sea coast. Build an actual functioning diving resort, operated as a legitimate business with real customers. Use the infrastructure to hide extraction operations. The cover isn't a mask, it's a parallel reality that must function independently. The Red Sea coast offers specific advantages. The region already attracts European tourists. Several small resorts operate near Port Sudan, catering to Italian and German visitors. A new establishment won't seem unusual. More importantly, the coast sits relatively far from Khartoum's main security apparatus. Local authorities focus on smuggling and petty crime, not espionage. The underwater topography creates excellent diving conditions, meaning legitimate tourists will actually want to visit. This solves the problem of maintaining a business with no real customers, which immediately raises suspicions. Creating the business structure consumes months. Israeli agents can't simply arrive and purchase property. They need European identities, legitimate documentation, corporate structures that survive investigation. Swiss shell companies get established through intermediaries who know nothing of the operation's true purpose. Bank accounts open in Geneva with deposits large enough to demonstrate financial credibility. False identities are crafted for operatives, complete with passports, business licenses, employment histories that include credit records and tax filings. The identity creation process requires specialists who understand that modern backgrounds need digital footprints alongside paper trails. Each operative receives a legend, a fictional life story supported by verifiable details, school records from European institutions, employment histories with real companies approached and convinced to confirm past employment if contacted. Personal details like favorite restaurants and childhood addresses. Operatives memorize their legends completely, practicing responses until their cover identities feel natural. A fictional Swiss-Italian partnership forms, ostensibly seeking to develop tourism infrastructure along Sudan's underdeveloped coastline. Market research gets conducted and documented, showing genuine analysis of tourism trends. Financial projections are prepared by actual business consultants who believe they're working for a legitimate resort development. Everything must be real because anything false might be discovered. Advanced teams begin scouting locations in late 1981. They pose as tourism consultants, meeting Sudanese officials and local landowners. They photograph beaches, survey roads, map distances to refugee camps while ostensibly evaluating commercial viability. They drink tea with village elders and provincial governors, building relationships. Everything gets documented as legitimate business research. The chosen site near the village of Mohammed Kol balances competing requirements. Good diving with coral reefs close to shore, reasonable road access, enough isolation to avoid constant observation, while not so remote as to seem suspicious, close enough to camps for extraction operations, far enough from major population centers to avoid scrutiny. Negotiations for a long-term lease proceed slowly, as Middle Eastern business negotiations typically do. Multiple meetings over endless tea, prices negotiated, environmental concerns addressed. The Israeli operatives, playing European businessmen, show appropriate frustration at bureaucratic delays while demonstrating respect for Sudanese sovereignty. They pay bribes where expected, decline them where refusal seems more authentic. Trust gradually builds with officials who later grant permits. Sudanese officials, eager for foreign investment and tourism revenue, welcome the project enthusiastically. They see European businessmen with cash and plans for an industry that could bring jobs. President Nemiry's government has been attempting to attract Western investment to balance Soviet influence. This project fits perfectly. Permits issue with relatively little scrutiny. Construction begins early 1982. Local Sudanese workers pour foundations, frame buildings, install plumbing. They work alongside European supervisors who speak Italian accented English and complain about heat and delays like any foreign contractors. What workers can't see are modifications made after hours, reinforced walls in certain bungalows to house communications equipment, false storage areas in the kitchen, concealed fuel tanks holding more than any resort needs. The Aras holiday village takes shape over 6 months. 12 bungalows line the beach. A central building houses restaurant, bar, reception area. Dive equipment fills a storage shed, all functional and necessary for maintaining the tourist cover. A small dock extends into water where boats supposedly take guests to offshore reefs. Staff present themselves as hospitality professionals. The manager, using the name Rudy, claims experience running hotels in Switzerland and Greece. He speaks multiple languages, charms Sudanese officials, cultivates relationships with local suppliers. Other operatives take roles as diving instructors, kitchen staff, maintenance workers. Their cover identities are meticulously maintained. They live in staff quarters, socialize at local bars, complain about the same things real resort workers do. Opening to actual tourists is essential. If the Arouse Holiday Village accepts no guests, suspicions arise. Throughout late 1982 and early 83, small numbers of genuine European tourists arrive, drawn by advertisements in diving magazines. They find a modest but functional resort. The diving is excellent, the staff professional, the food adequate. Guests leave positive reviews, recommending the place to friends. This legitimate business activity provides essential cover. Behind scenes, operatives establish communication protocols with refugee contacts. Trusted intermediaries visit camps, identifying families ready to attempt the journey. Messages pass through circuitous routes, verbal instructions relayed from person to person. Dates and times are never written. Refugees are told to watch for signals, a certain flag raised on the beach, a boat anchored offshore, a vehicle parked at a specific location. The first extraction happens on a moonless night in late 1983. 12 refugees, mostly families with young children, have been moved from inland camps to a safe house near the coast. They travel in small groups, dressed to blend with local villagers, carrying no luggage. At the designated hour, they walk down a beach access path and wait in darkness. Out on the water, a boat's engine cuts to idle. Israeli Navy personnel operating a Zodiac launched from a vessel waiting beyond Sudanese territorial waters navigate by GPS toward the shoreline. Operatives on the beach use infrared strobes visible only through night vision equipment. The refugees, frightened and exhausted, are guided into water and onto the boat. Within 20 minutes, all are aboard. The Zodiac returns to the waiting vessel, which immediately departs for international waters. Success validates the concept, but reveals logistical challenges. Moving small groups is too slow. Thousands wait in camps. At current pace, evacuations take years. Planners decide to scale up. Larger groups will be extracted, transported to the resort itself, held in concealed areas until boats can ferry them to waiting ships. This requires expanding hidden infrastructure and accepting greater operational risk. Additional buildings get constructed under guise of expansion projects. A new storage facility, ostensibly for equipment, contains a hidden basement where refugees can shelter during day. False walls and staff quarters create concealed rooms. The resort's legitimate operations continue. Tourists arrive, go diving, eat meals, depart, unaware that beneath their feet or behind nearby walls, other people wait in silence. Scale grows throughout 1984. Groups of 30, then 50, then over 100 refugees move to the coast and get held at the resort for days or weeks before extraction. Operatives coordinate with Israeli Navy. Vessels loitering in international waters. Timing approaches to coincide with moonless nights and favorable sea conditions. The logistics are staggering. Food, water, medical care, sanitation for dozens of hidden people while maintaining appearance of normal operations. The duality of the Arouse Holiday Village becomes its strangest feature. By day, European tourists snorkel in clear water, sip drinks at the beach bar, complain about sunburns. By night, the same beach becomes departure point for one of history's most audacious rescue operations. Operatives live this contradiction constantly, smiling at guests while coordinating extractions, serving meals while monitoring police radio frequencies, maintaining equipment while preparing for emergency evacuations. Refugees hidden at the resort experience even more surreal existence. Many walked for weeks across harsh terrain, surviving on minimal food and water. They arrived exhausted, malnourished, traumatized. Suddenly they find themselves concealed in rooms beneath a tourist facility, listening to laughter and music from above, waiting for the signal that takes them to boats and freedom. Children must remain silent during day. Families crowd into spaces designed for storage. Operatives provide medical care, distribute food, offer reassurance. But conditions are difficult and anxiety agonizing. Security is maintained through constant vigilance. Sudanese police occasionally visit the resort, checking licenses, asking routine questions. During these visits, hidden refugees must remain absolutely silent. Staff members engage officers in conversation, offer tea, answer questions while other operatives stand ready to implement emergency plans. The tension during these encounters is enormous, but the cover holds. Police see what they expect: a modestly successful resort catering to European tourists. Not everything goes smoothly. On several occasions, refugees arrive at coast earlier than scheduled, forcing improvisation of temporary shelter. Once, a tourist accidentally wanders into a restricted area and must be quickly redirected with plausible excuse about construction hazards. Another time, a local supplier grows suspicious about the amount of food being ordered and makes inquiries. Each incident requires careful management, quick thinking, nerves of steel. The psychological toll on operatives is significant. They live double lives for months, cut off from families, unable to discuss their work, constantly aware that discovery means arrest or worse. Some find the isolation overwhelming. Others thrive on adrenaline and sense of purpose. All understand what they're doing is extraordinary, saving lives through deception, operating in enemy territory under the thinnest of covers. By mid-1984, Operation Brothers has evacuated over 1,000 refugees. Each successful extraction emboldens planners to attempt larger numbers. The operation reaches peak that summer when coordination with Navy assets allows multiple boat pickups in single week. Groups of over 200 refugees move through the resort in carefully orchestrated waves. Risk of discovery escalates proportionally, but so does urgency. Intelligence reports indicate Sudanese authorities are beginning to investigate unusual activity along the coast. Time is running out. November 1984. Surveillance detects increased police presence near the resort. Informants report that Sudanese security forces have compiled lists of suspicious foreign businesses. The decision is made to accelerate timeline and prepare for emergency evacuation. One final large-scale extraction is planned. Over 4 nights in late November, nearly 500 refugees pass through the resort. Every available space gets used. Staff work in shifts managing logistics around the clock. The beach becomes continuous staging area. Navy vessels wait offshore in unprecedented numbers. The operation is no longer covert. It's a desperate race. The final night, as the last refugees board boats, Sudanese police vehicles appear on the coastal road. Someone tipped off authorities, or perhaps surveillance finally pieced together the truth. The operatives had prepared for this moment. Emergency plans are implemented. Staff members destroy documents, dismantle communications equipment, prepare to evacuate. The last refugees clear the beach minutes before police arrive at the resort gate. The operatives themselves escape through prearranged routes. Some flee overland toward the Ethiopian border. Others get extracted by boats that return for them. Sudanese police find an abandoned resort, structures intact but empty, equipment scattered, no staff present. They discover hidden rooms, false walls, evidence of large-scale activity. But by then, the refugees and operatives are gone. Sudan protests to the United Nations. Israel offers no official comment. The story leaks to international media within weeks. Journalists piece together the scope: a multi-year intelligence operation that evacuated thousands of people from an enemy country while posing as a tourist resort. The audacity captures global attention, yet the collapse doesn't end Ethiopian Jewish immigration. It forces a shift in methods. Future evacuations rely more heavily on airlifts through third countries and diplomatic negotiations. The most famous, Operation Solomon in 1991, evacuates over 14,000 people in 36 hours using military aircraft. But that operation's success builds on lessons learned from brothers. For the operatives who staffed the resort, readjustment proves difficult. They lived under false identities for years, immersed in a mission that consumed their lives. Returning to normal existence feels jarring. Some struggle with the transition. Others find purpose in training the next generation, passing on lessons learned. The psychological impact lingers. Nightmares about police raids, anxiety about blown covers, constant awareness of how close they came to disaster. The refugees themselves face their own challenges. Arriving in Israel brings freedom, but also cultural shock. Ethiopian Jewish communities had preserved ancient traditions in isolation for centuries. Modern Israeli society is alien and overwhelming. Integration proves difficult. Language barriers, discrimination, economic hardship test families who survived so much to reach safety. What remains 3 decades later is a story that defies conventional intelligence doctrine. For nearly 4 years, Israeli intelligence ran a functional business in an enemy state, maintained operational security against considerable odds, evacuated thousands of people facing persecution. The Red Sea diving resort became proof that imagination and determination could overcome seemingly impossible obstacles, but also a reminder that such operations exact heavy tolls on everyone involved. The physical resort stood abandoned for years after the operation ended. Local authorities eventually demolished the buildings. The beach remained. Sudanese fishermen who worked near the site told stories about the strange European tourists who came and went at odd hours, the nighttime boat activity, the sudden disappearance of everyone. Some claimed they knew something unusual was happening but said nothing. Others insisted they were completely fooled. The truth likely fell somewhere between. People saw what they wanted to see. The operation succeeded because it matched expectations of what a struggling resort might look like. One operative, decades later, recalled a moment that stayed with him. During a particularly tense extraction, a young girl asked why the stars looked different over the ocean than they had over the desert. He had no answer. He was exhausted, terrified of being discovered, focused on getting everyone safely onto boats. But later, after the operation ended and he returned to normal life, he thought about that question often. It represented innocence preserved despite horror, curiosity maintained through trauma, hope that tomorrow might bring something better than today. That, he reflected, was why the operation mattered, not for its intelligence value or strategic success, but for the individual lives it touched and the futures it made possible. The final accounting includes over 3,000 refugees evacuated, 0 operatives killed or captured, and a legacy that influenced covert operations for decades afterward. Intelligence agencies worldwide studied the operation, analyzing methods, successes, vulnerabilities. Training programs incorporated its lessons. Future operations borrowed its tactics. Yet perhaps the most important legacy is simpler. Thousands of families live today because a small group of people decided that insurmountable obstacles were merely challenges requiring imagination. Children who might have died in refugee camps instead grew up in safety. Traditions that might have been lost were preserved. Communities that might have vanished instead flourished. The operation's true measure lies not in intelligence reports or strategic analysis, but in the lives lived because someone refused to accept that nothing could be done. The beach near Mohammed Kul is quiet now. Fishermen work the same waters where boats once ferried refugees to freedom. But the story remains, carved not into monuments or official records, but into family histories and collective memory. For those who lived it, who walked the long road from Ethiopia to Sudan to Israel, the Red Sea diving resort was never just an intelligence operation. It was the place where hope became reality, where the impossible happened, where the future began on a dark beach under stars that looked different because they shone over freedom. What does a fake diving resort in Sudan reveal about the machinery of rescue and the mathematics of impossible choices? That certain problems can't be solved through conventional means. That bureaucracy sometimes requires circumvention rather than navigation. That the line between legitimate business and intelligence operation exists only in paperwork, not in practice. And that the most audacious cover story is often the one that succeeds succeeds precisely because no one believes anyone would attempt something so brazen. Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this investigation into impossible logistics made you see covert operations differently, hit that like button and share this video. Subscribe because we're exposing the missions that governments prefer stayed buried. Hit the notification bell. The next operation is already waiting to be uncovered.